Get on the line.
Oh, get on the line. All right, let's go to our telephone.
We can't get to the Mandela event, and we can only get on LIB. Let us on.
All right, let's let him on. Good afternoon. You're on WLIB.
Hello?
Hello. How you doing?
How are you?
All right.
My name is Calvin, and I'm from Queens, and I just want to first start by saying peace and love to you, Brother Mark, Sister Kay, and Brother Imhotep.
Thank you, my brother.
Before I get into my comments about the impressions that the Mandela event really had upon me, I just wanted to say in regards to the previous caller who was speaking about the comment made by the news reporter, I believe Hope.
Yes.
I wanted to say that I was also upset, and in the process of trying to call up to also file a complaint, the line was extremely busy. But the man, in all fairness to him, did go on to say that their calls had in fact been coming in, and that he did not mean the comment about the gold to be derogatory, but that the principal of the school does not allow any of the students at all to wear gold chains. So I think that was what he was talking about in that particular situation.
Oh, in other words, he was trying to now say that he didn't mean it in an overall sense, but that he was talking about the situation with Principal Mickens and the fact that he doesn't allow gold, and maybe that the reporter wouldn't have been allowed there?
Right.
Gee, it would have been nice if he'd explained that, though, wouldn't it?
He did explain it.
No, I mean before the fact, or immediately following that statement. You know what I'm saying? See, because it's easy to come back and say it when you realize that people calling the station, it might mean your gig.
Right. Because as soon as it was said, a lady called my show immediately, and then, of course, we got the phone number. And
Well, I guess the family can be attributed with having exhibited zero tolerance, because he definitely straightened it out.
Well said, brother. Thank you.
In regards to Mandela and the Mandelas, I have to say that I was one of the hundreds of thousands of people who were down in City Hall. And the one sense that I did get, which, you know, you read about Mandela in books, you see footage of him, but to have him there live, you got the sense that this man and this woman were not just black leaders, per se, but that they were international leaders. When I had an opportunity to be in the crowd, I mean, people have already said it, it was a sea of humanity. It was so crowded, and we stood there for hours that you just begin to sway. And I was in the company of African Americans. There was some Latino brothers and sisters, Asian. I was next to an Indian. There was also white people in the crowd, and the impact that he had on the crowd, he and Mrs. Mandela, was just so spellbinding that nobody dared to move. I mean, some people, it got a little hot and were actually fainting. But there were no problems.
No, people did not move. And I'll tell you something. When his motorcade came into sight, there was a roar from this crowd that I swear to God, Gary, sounded like it was thunder. It was getting ready to rain.
I heard it,
You know, because it was just, it swelled. And you know, when you ever see the wave in a stadium? And you hear that thing going around like that? Well, the roar started down below City Hall Park. And as it moved further and further up along both sides of City Hall, this tremendous roar of people. And I said, whoa, this is something that is of historic significance.
Indeed. One thing that I got specifically for us as African Americans that really hit me the most was the sense of the struggle and family. And I think that we as a people could really benefit a lot from understanding the symbiotic nature and the synergism we can gain from understanding. Here is a man who has been in jail for longer than many of the people who were there before they were even born. And this man seemed to epitomize, and woman, I don't mean, Sister Winnie was powerful in the way she came. I mean, it was impressed. I was so impressed with both of them. It made me feel so proud. I mean, I saw people with tears in their eyes. And one thing that I got in terms of that sense of family, that she's always been with him, stuck by him. And as a young man who, you know, I grew up in foster care. I really didn't have what you would call a positive role model as a father. I think to look at Nelson and Winnie Mandela, that as a male black trying to survive in this nation, that he gave me a sense of pride about myself in terms of saying, you know, if this man can struggle with this, some of this little foolishness that you're going through, while it's important, you can still draw from him and from Winnie a power from them. And
Absolutely.
that sense of the family, when you have the goodness of a woman who exhibits such a complementary power, not one that's trying to dictate you or in any way be a threat to your masculinity, but when you see a family that complements one another with this power, I mean, I just can say that it actually brought me myself to tears. And it was the most beautiful experience. And in my lifetime, I don't know what type of pageantry. I've read about the pageantry when Marcus Garvey was in New York and so forth and so on, but I had never in my 31 years seen anything as magnificent. And I don't mean pageantry in terms of costumes or what have you, but the stature and the commitment of that. And I think that we as African Americans and as people in general can definitely benefit from this man who, in spite of all of this, shows no bitterness. In spite of, I think Imhotep mentioned earlier that it's going to still take some time to really understand what the significance of what actually has happened with this family coming to us and sharing with us their experiences, because it's so paradoxical.
Yeah.
A man who no one could have a problem with if he was bitter, shows no bitterness. A man who is so humble in his nature, exhibiting such strength. And this is in Winnie too. This is in a family that is so much a model. And if we need examples, and we surely do need examples, in Winnie and Nelson Mandela, certainly, when we talk about family, and we as African Americans are descendants from the original family, and I guess that the Mandelas can definitely, in my opinion, be considered our first family.
You know, can I
Thank you very much for calling.
Before he goes, or as he's listening, I wonder if I can say just something to him. I'm sitting here listening to his words, and he is so eloquent.
Yes, he was.
In telling his feelings.
I that Nelson Mandela and people like him. I was a high school dropout. I was a drug addict, and I'm proud to say that I've gotten myself together, went on to not only get my GED, but to graduate from college as an honor student with 2 minors in psychology and philosophy. Wow. And I attribute that to, in reading about the struggles that our people have endured, where I would tell myself, I'll never give up. And nothing can deter me. When I see something like that, it's so beautiful. I feel as if I have grown. I mean, spiritually, as if I have grown in my understanding of the commitment that I need to have individually, and we as a people need to have in terms of what the struggle is. And as he said while he was speaking, a luta continua, and that is the struggle continues. And you, with WLIB, and the work that you've done over the years, is the first time I've ever called. I'm so proud of the work you've done. I'm so proud of the beauty, the sensitivity, and the commitment that you share to us, the young people who I deal with. We really look up to you. You are our role model. And I just want you to know that we love y'all.
All right, thank you very much again. Take care.
Beautiful.
Coming up on 5 minutes before the hour of 4 o'clock, let's go to another phone call at 212-692-WLIB in 1-800-332-1023. Good afternoon. You're on WLIB.
Yes, good afternoon, Mark.
How are you?
Fine. Good afternoon, Kay.
Hello, how are you?
And I had called you the other morning, Kay. And good afternoon, Gary.
Good afternoon, brother.
Listen, I am so enthused. I have tickets to the affair tonight. But what I called in response to respond to was that the point that you had brought up earlier about apartheid in America. Okay, I've been a member of the family. I guess you guys adopted me some 10 years ago, and I've been like bringing that out so much, and I never thought that people would realize that it was like that in America.
Nelson and Winnie Mandela, home in Harlem at the intersection of 125th Street and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard, and you're hearing it all live right here on 1190 AM WLIB Radio. Alambe Brass is now at the podium. Congressman Charles Rangel on one side, Jim Bell, labor leader and organizer of Mr. Mandela's trip, on the other.
Please quiet down so we can proceed with the program.
People are now going back and sitting back down to tumultuous welcome for Nelson Mandela here in the village of Harlem. Absolutely tumultuous. And the drums, of course, added to it, and perhaps were one element that was not present yesterday at City Hall, at least in this number.
And the chanting continues.
Amanda! Amanda!
Lambe Braff now at the podium. I see him Hotep Gary Byrd is still on the scene.
Dominic Carter is up there close, and our chairman of Inner City Broadcasting, Mr. Percy Sutton, is up there.
Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Dinkins are sitting on to the immediate right of Mr. and Mrs. Mandela.
Mark, one thing I noticed that it's interesting that Mrs. Mandela is wearing Western dress, and that might have been for the television taping for Nightline, you think?
For the, yeah, that's
Yes.
entirely possible.
Yes.
Brothers and sisters,
See, Daruba Ben Wahad is very close to the microphone, and maybe that he will give his speech prior to Mr. Mandela speaking. As we mentioned during the break, he approached the podium and said that he was not going to give his speech until the Mandelas, in fact, arrived. He's now right behind Alambe Braff. It's entirely possible that Daruba Ben Wahad will speak prior to the Mandelas.
You can't help but wonder what he's going to say.
in our audience,
I think I know.
you want to tell us,
Yeah.
some of the people that you're quite familiar with and have played a role in bringing about this thing of having Nelson and Winnie Mandela in our midst. You've heard already from
Okay, I don't think you can fit one more person on that.
various members of the committee.
I don't think so either.
Everyone is people standing in the aisleway. But the Mandelas are seated and look to be comfortable,
Among us,
along with the mayor and Mrs. Joyce Dinkins.
the mayor and first lady of New York City, David and Joyce Dinkins.
And Mrs. Dinkins looks very, very beautiful. She has on a blue, it looks like a plaid dress with pearls, and she looks very
Yes.
lovely. And of course,
Yes.
Mayor Dinkins looks very handsome in his
Yeah, I'm
dark
looking
suit.
down at the top now. I see people as far down as between 122nd and 123rd.
As
two
you
blocks
said
south
before,
of here.
as you said before, and as you described it, Mark, a sea of humanity, a sea of humanity.
Trials and tribulations. We have grown to love, although we have been thousands of miles away. Her name is synonymous with the struggle of African women, indeed of African people. She needs no introduction in this community, the Soweto of New York. Will you please acknowledge Sister Winnie Mandela?
Introducing Sister Winnie Mandela, who stands and puts her fist aloft, and thousands of fists are returned in greeting.
And she's holding up her right hand, power, and she looks absolutely beautiful.
With the flowers from the organizers by a sister who I introduced you before, who has a similar history in sharing their family with the struggle.
She's good.
You have partly overcome your problems. We need you. We need your support. We know we can come back to you with the problems we have in our country, the problems of our returning exiles. We have men and women and children who fled the country because of persecution from the racist regime. We need each and every one of you, each family, to regard itself as adopting one of those children. We know we can count on you. Amanda! Amanda! Viva Oliver Tambo, viva! Viva AFC, viva! Amanda!
Winnie Mandela,
Very strong.
very strong
Strongest
speech,
speech we've heard so far.
asking for the help of the people of Harlem.
At this particular time, this is
In the struggle to end apartheid.
What Sister Winnie has said has made us think over and over about the dues that we have paid here. and our own political prisoners, we said before. And we at this time are going to ask Brother Daruba Bidwahad to make a presentation on behalf of the brothers who have suffered in this country trying to exercise their political view. And we have a brief presentation before we bring the brother on. So we welcome in this time Brother Daruba Bidwahad to make a presentation on behalf of all those brothers locked up and sisters locked up in the prisons of the United States.
Brother Daruba Bidwahad.
Political prisoner who had spent 90 years in jail. And he was let out because they finally found information that was kept from his attorneys. Am I correct, Mark?
Yes, he was freed after 19 years of incarceration himself, and he's making a presentation on behalf of all the brothers and sisters behind bars.
The political prisoners of the United States, especially African American political prisoners, have written this brief statement to you and have asked me, as one of their former comrades in prison, to present it to you. There is a common thread and a common humanity that we all share. My brothers, I have spent 19 years in prison in the United States for my political beliefs. And you, sir, you were the symbol that helped sustain me and other African American political prisoners. In consideration for your health and the grueling schedule that you are under, I will make this presentation very brief, and we will move right along. But I would like to say that here in the United States, African American people and their movement for liberation have been criminalized just as the ANC was criminalized by the racist, fascist apartheid regime in South Africa.
And that is drawing some applause from Winnie Mandela and from Nelson Mandela.
Our people who stand up for our freedom have been railroaded to prison by the same legal system that tries to protect you today and that tried to kill you yesterday. So on behalf of my brothers in prison, on behalf of the Puerto Rican nationalistas who cannot sit up here, on behalf of the Native American political prisoners, and on behalf of the white American political prisoners, I say to you, brothers, we love you and we will not give up the fight. 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 Amandla! Amandla!
Daruba Bidwahad. And now Nelson Mandela is taking
Nelson Mandela and Daruba Bidwahad are embracing
here in Harlem at the intersection of Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard and 125th Street.
1190 WLIB Radio. Mark, I don't care. I know we're going to get some interesting observations from the other members of the other press. But here we have an example of two men, both who were incarcerated for long periods of time because of what they believed in. And we can very well understand their embracing, we understand their relating to one another, and you know we're going to get a lot of other stuff from the other press, so they have to understand the history of facing and dealing with oppression. Winnie Mandela certainly went through a lot in those 27 years that her husband was incarcerated.
Okay, you know,
WLIB is the voice of liberation. Honorable Percy Sutton.
Our chairman of Inner City Broadcasting is being introduced, Mark.
Yes, Chairman Sutton.
Chairman Sutton, Chairman Percy Sutton.
Assemblyman Jenny Farrell, we didn't get a chance to acknowledge before. At this particular time, I'm going to introduce to you our senior representative who will then introduce to you our honored guest. Will you please welcome, at this particular time, our congressional representative who just recently took a lot of abuse because he had the courage to stand on the question of the invasion of Panama. a person that also takes a lot of hits, but we have said that he, as a city representative, will be the person to introduce our comrade and brother, Nelson Mandela. Will you please acknowledge Representative Charlie Rangel?
Congressman Charles Rangel of Manhattan has been chosen to introduce Nelson Mandela to the people in the village of Harlem who are here assembled by the tens of thousands, maybe more than that.
As far as we can see, Mark.
Absolutely.
Our distinguished brother who's here to honor us. The next speaker would be the great mayor of the city of New York, David N. Dinkins.
This is WLIB New York.
Mayor Dinkins now coming before the podium.
I can never remember in my entire adult life a day like this day. Our town has hosted great men and great women, world leaders and renowned artists, popes and potentates, but never have we witnessed in our midst a man whose life is a greater statement about the power principle, a man whose very presence is a testament to hope. Eddie Davis, Malcolm X, Adam Clayton Powell, Martin Luther King. On this corner, we have not forgotten our African heritage. We understand the pains of prison because 1 out of 4 of our African American youth are in those prisons. But we tell you that your courage has been an inspiration to us. You have kept us a strong people, and we know that we will truly not be free until Africans all over the world are free, including here in Harlem.
Harlem Congressman Charles Rangel.
And so we thank you for your courage, and we promise you that we will be with you in the struggle until victory is won for all of us. We will keep the pressure on that racist regime in Pretoria. My brothers and sisters, my leaders in politics, my leaders in the spiritual community, it gives me the greatest pleasure of my political life to present to you the true leader of South Africa and the moral international leader of the world, your brother, Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela now coming forward to the podium. And an explosion from the tens of thousands of people at the intersection of Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard and 125th Street.
There are drums, people are cheering, waving flags. As far as the eye can see, everyone is standing out there on their feet.
Congressman Rangel, I believe, presented a kente cloth to Mr. Mandela, which he's now wearing around his neck.
And he has put on a pair of glasses. And there's chanting.
Chanting from as far south as 123rd Street, as far north as 128th Street. And as far west as 8th Avenue.
This is indeed probably the most monumental occasion that I have ever witnessed, Mark.
Sea of flags to our immediate right, Kate, looking south on Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. Red, black, and green, black, green, and gold.
The flag of the
African
ANC, the gold.
Nelson Mandela is now about to speak.
Chairman, distinguished guests,
very happy to be here this evening. And it gives me immense pleasure to greet all of you on behalf of the leaders and members of the African National Congress and the mass democratic movement. It is with great joy that I speak to you this evening. My only regret is that I am unable to embrace each and every one of you. Whilst my comrades and I were in prison, we followed closely your own struggle against the injustices of racial discrimination and economic inequality. We were and are aware of the resistance of the people of Harlem and continue to be inspired by your indomitable fighting spirit. I am able to speak to you because of the mass resistance of our people and the unceasing solidarity of millions throughout the world. It is you, the working people of Harlem, that helped to make it happen. It is you, the clergy and believers, who helped to make it happen. It is you, the professionals and intellectuals, that helped to make it happen. It is you, the struggle women, who helped to make it happen. The kinship that the ANC feels for the people of Harlem goes deeper than skin color. It is the kinship of our shared historical experience and the kinship of the solidarity of the victims of blind prejudice and hatred. To our people, Harlem symbolizes strength and beauty in resistance. And you have taught us that out of resistance to injustice comes renaissance, renewal, and reset. From the beginning of the century, we have been inspired by the great anti-racist freedom fighters like WLIB, Sojourner Truth, Paul Robson, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, Fannie Lou Hamer, Adam Clayton Powell, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, and many others. At the dawning of the century, Dr. Du Bois, with great foresight, predicted that, quote, the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line, unquote. As we enter the last decade of the 20th century, it is intolerable and unacceptable that the cancer of racism is still eating away at the fabric of societies in different parts of our planet. It remains one of the most important global issues confronting all humanity, black and white. It is a struggle that must involve people of all walks of life. It is a struggle that must involve people of different colors, religions, and creeds. All of us descendants of Africa, know only too well that racism demeans the victim and dehumanizes its perpetrators. Racism, we must emphasize, pollutes the atmosphere of human relations and poisons the minds of the backward, the bigoted, and the prejudiced. On my way from the airport through the streets of New York yesterday, a slogan on the sweatshirt of a young woman moved me. In fact, quote, led by nature, proud by choice, unquote. The oppressed people of South Africa, living in a country in which institutionalized racism permeates every pore of our lives, and even in death, since we have segregated cemeteries, acutely sensitive to the pain and injury suffered by people of color. It should therefore be clear that all anti-racist fighters, wherever they may be, will always find a friend and an ally in our people, in our movement, the ANC. For us, the struggle against racism has assumed the proportions of a crusade. We all of us, black and white, should spare no effort in our struggle against all forms and manifestations of racism, wherever and whenever it rears its ugly head. The revolt of our people continues in the land of our party. Our struggle is a struggle to raise the color line that all too often determines who is rich and who is poor, that all too often decides who lives in luxury and who lives in squalor, that all too often determines who shall get food, clothing and health care, and that all too often decides who will live and who will die. We continue to live in a country enslaved by our party. The vote, the land, economic wealth and power remain a monopoly of the white minority. The only monopoly black has is the monopoly of ghettos, of deprived and suffering children, the monopoly of millions of unemployed, the monopoly of urban slums, rural starvation, low wages, and the bullets and clubs of too many trigger-happy police. But, my dear brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, I am here to report to you that due to the enormous sacrifices of our people and the solidarity and support of people like you and the international community, apartheid is nearing its end. We are on the threshold of momentous changes. Last month, at the initiative of the ANC, we met with President de Klerk and his colleagues. It was not a meeting of master and servant. It was a meeting of equals. At that meeting, we reached an agreement on removing those obstacles covering the creation of a climate conducive to negotiation. We are confident that the agreement can be implemented in full as a matter of urgency. Equally, we are confident that you will continue to support us in this fight. Let me say with all sincerity that we do not doubt the integrity of President-elect and his colleagues. Equally, we welcome the move to repeal certain racist legislation as a state of emergency in the greater part of our country. Yet until the agreement has been implemented in full and there is profound and irreversible change, international pressure must be intensified and extensions contained. Keep the pressure on apartheid. Keep the pressure on apartheid. It is regrettable that in South Africa there is still a minority of a minority violently and vehemently opposed to a negotiated resolution of the conflict. Too many of them are heavily armed. Too many of them are to be found in the police force. Too many of them are mobilized and organized into paramilitary formations. They have the capacity and it seems the will to commit unspeakable atrocities. But they will not deflect us from our chosen path. For our part, we understand and are sensitive to the fears about the future of many of our white compatriots. The ANC is profoundly committed and determined to do all we can to demonstrate that they have nothing to fear from a non-racial, non-sexist democracy. That indeed, only in a non-racial, non-sexist, united and democratic South Africa will they be free from the prison that is the apartheid system. The ANC and the mass democratic movement represent an unequaled diversity of cultures, languages, religion, tradition and class. I am happy to report to you that there are increasing numbers of whites who not only realize that apartheid is unjust and a crime, but who are ready to be in the same trenches as their fellow black sisters and brothers. As the struggle intensifies, the social base of the present government will be reduced and more whites will join the ANC as equals with equal duties, obligations, and responsibilities. We are on the verge of victory, but the last mile on the freedom road could prove to be the most difficult and the most intractable. Thus our struggle cries out for organization, discipline and unity. Struggle which does not strengthen organization can lead to a blind alley. Struggle without discipline can lead to anarchy. Struggling without unity enables the other side to pick us off one by one. We are therefore deeply involved in trying to bring about the unity in action of all those opposed to apartheid. Any individual, any group, any organization that seeks genuine unity in action will find a ready partner in the ANC. We are fighting for a democratic South Africa. This means first and foremost, one person, one vote on a non-racial voters' roll. On this, there can be no compromise. For us, political power should be the basis for the economic empowerment of people. It is outrageous that in the richest country on our continent, with its vast economic resources, that millions should be deprived of the basic necessities of life. The gap between the have and the have-not, black and white, is totally unacceptable. Any new democratic state must address this historic injustice as a matter of urgency. It also means that we are irrevocably committed to realizing a society in which the fruit of our people's labor shall be distributed equitably. That the fighting imbalance between the wealth of the minority and the poverty of the majority has to be addressed. To bring an end to this old and just iniquitous social order and bring into being a new one, characterized by the notions of justice and equity, requires that we address the question of the enormous economic power wielded by and concentrated in the hands of a minority. Brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, victory is in sight. The light at the end of the tunnel is now beckoning, but we are not yet there. To reach the end of the tunnel requires that we intensify the struggle on all fronts. It requires that we make the necessary sacrifices. It requires that we remain unrelenting in pursuit of our goals. The masses of our people, of our country, are ready for the final battle. Let me assure you, they will not flinch from that last battle. It is their heroism, courage, and unquenchable fighting spirit which has earned them the respect and admiration of the international community. Our people symbolize the spirit of resistance and no surrender. Let me also assure you that the ANC will never be found wanting. Let me assure you that the ANC will never rest until we have accomplished our goals. This is the pledge that I make on behalf of all the freedom fighters in the ANC. Brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, I am here to claim you because in the 27 years of my imprisonment and indeed throughout the life of the ANC, you have claimed our struggle. There is an umbilical cord that ties us together. So let us act in unity. Let us double and redouble our efforts to bring to a speedy end a shameful blot on humanity, this crime against humanity. At the Rivonia trial, at which I was sentenced to life imprisonment, I said from the dock, quote, during my lifetime, I have dedicated myself to the struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination and will fight against black domination. I have cherished an ideal for a democratic society in which all persons will live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I am prepared to live for and achieve. But if need be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.